Hey everyone, it's Ping back again. This is officially our ninth video together. Today, I want to share some stories about the plants we used to grow in my backyard. This was almost a decade ago, and those plants are long gone by now. Back when we were building our house, money was pretty tight, so we left more than half of the lot unused and just put a fence around it. Since the unused area was just bare dirt, we ended up planting quite a few things there. But honestly, every single plant that grew in our yard had a really weird vibe going on. Take the healthiest plant we had, for example, a guava tree. Whenever the season rolled around, it would be absolutely loaded with guavas. Sounds like a dream, right? But nobody in my family dared to eat a single one. Why? Because almost year round, this tree was infested with tussock moths. Locally, we call them dog hair caterpillars because they're super fuzzy and look like dog fur. But they are incredibly gross, and their hairs are actually toxic. You can't even graze them. Whenever we walked into the dirt yard, we'd give that tree a wide berth, terrified that one of those things would drop on us. Then there was our fig tree. It was the tallest and beefiest tree in the yard, but in the nearly 20 years it lived with us, it never produced a single fig. It was all growth, zero fruit. I don't exactly have a green thumb, so I had no idea what kind of tree it even was until my mom told me. The craziest part? She said before it was transplanted to our yard, it was a totally normal tree that yielded a ton of fruit. But the second it moved in with us, it basically went on strike and never fruited again. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. When we first started planting, my dad actually brought over a bunch of sunflowers. He planted a whole row of them, and they grew massive and tall. When my teacher came over for a home visit, they made a huge impression on her. Whenever my house came up in conversation, she'd be like, "Oh, I know your house. You're the family with all those sunflowers." I was young and clueless back then, but later a friend told me that sunflower seeds actually come right from the flower head. I excitedly ran home, plucked a few huge-looking seeds, and cracked them open, only to find they were completely hollow, not a single kernel inside. Later on, my dad set up a trellis in the dirt and planted a grapevine. That vine actually pulled its weight. It grew a bunch of huge, gorgeous grapes. I was thrilled, thinking we finally had a normal plant in the family. But I spoke too soon. It wasn't long before the vine was covered in these huge, fat, green caterpillars. And they were so brazen, they didn't even try to hide. They just hung out in broad daylight, chowing down on the leaves. Eventually, there were so many of them that they started falling to the ground. Whenever my grandma saw one, she'd just stomp on it, which made things 10 times grosser. A fat bug just turned into a gooey, splattered mess stuck to the ground. By now, you're probably thinking my house was cursed or something. Why was every plant acting out? As a kid, I couldn't figure it out either. But later I realized the truth. My family never watered or pruned them. They were completely left to fend for themselves, relying entirely on fate, which basically meant Mother Nature's rain or the groundwater. I only figured this out years later when we started keeping potted houseplants, and I was like, oh, wait, plants need water? Seriously, as a kid, I had no idea you had to water plants. I thought as long as they were in the dirt, they'd survive. But if you really think about it, aren't humans kind of the same way? If we grow up with zero education, zero boundaries, and just absolute unchecked freedom, wouldn't a lot of us end up growing just as weird and twisted as the plants in my backyard? Well, that's my little story for today. Thanks for tuning in and sticking around to the end. I'm Ping, a new YouTuber, and I'll catch you in the next one.